Welcome back to the Chaos and Carry-Ons podcast with Stephanie
and Shelby.
Chaos and carry-ons, let's go. Disney dreams in tow, you know. Every flight and every ride. Join the journey, come inside.
So today, I feel like this is a highly anticipated and requested episode. We're going to finally talk about Disney Cruise Line. I also wanted to put in here, we tried to record something similar to this as one of our first episodes, but we both got way too squirrely.
Yeah.
So that's probably going to stay in the archive.
Oh, yeah.
So we're going to try to do a better job of it. I think it's because there's so much to talk about.
Mm-hmm. It was all over the place, like you said, but you had just done a cruise, so it was fresh on your memory. I was about to do one or do another one. So I don't know. I just feel like we're a lot more prepared for it this time. And this is, I mean, I can't tell you how many messages I've had of like, when are y'all talking about Cruise Line? Because this is, I don't know. People want to hear it, I guess.
I know. We should have re-recorded it earlier.
Yeah.
But I guess because it felt like we had already done it in our minds, we had already done it. But we didn't put it out, so
yeah,
we're finally doing it. So.
I was going to start out and just say I have been on 7 Disney cruises, which sounds like a lot, but in my mind, it's not enough because I would go on one a month if I could. And I feel like
I was shocked by that number. I thought you've been on way more than this.
Well, I thought the one I did in January was my 8th. So that's probably why you were saying that. I mean, why you think that, because I kept saying that. But then when I looked at it, I realized that was my 7th. So the next one will be number 8. But okay. I've done all of the ships, all the Disney ships, except the Treasure that just started sailing like 2 months ago. So that one's the next one that I've got to knock out, but it's probably not going to be the next one I go on.
Well, we should say that we actually, both of us, booked a cruise this week.
Yep, we sure did. And I'm so excited.
It's so exciting.
I was so excited when I booked it, and then when I added it to the Disney Cruise Line app, and it's like, you have 428 days, or however many days it was. I was like, well, this is depressing.
I know, but it's somewhere we've both never been before. I've also noticed that I'm having a very hard time finding people that post about this, that talk about this. I'm sure that there is. It's just not as popular as going to the Bahamas and their private islands. Like when we finally tell what we've booked, you'll realize that there's not a whole lot about it. So I'm really excited to kind of walk everybody through us planning this and then taking this and talking about it.
But
it's really, really exciting.
You have to stay tuned because we're not sharing. So
no,
I hate when
it's
people
huge.
I hate when people do this. I hate it so bad, but we are so excited. Like she said, it's somewhere neither of us have ever been. I'm so excited. I just wish, I don't want to wish it here because we have a lot planned for this year, but I'm so excited.
So let's talk about, let's start with discussing the booking, because I want to talk about this specific thing because people saw me posting about me being on hold for 5 hours. And that was the most asked question. I think that raised a lot of, why are you doing this? And why did you stick with it and stay on the phone for 5 hours? So when you are booking a Disney cruise, well, let me go back. Disney releases cruises in like increments of, I don't know, is it like 3 or 4 months? I think it was like May, June, July, and August, right? That they released?
So. And maybe September. It's like 4 to 6 months at a time they'll release that block.
Okay, so what they were releasing was 2026 cruises for this. They were calling it summer 2026. So if you know for certain, like kind of like we did, if you know for certain, I want to take a cruise, let's say in July of 2026, I want to go to, and I'm just throwing something out there, I want to go on a 7-night cruise to Mexico. Like, this is the one that I want to do. Why would you sit on hold for that long? Because that is the day when it is going to be the cheapest, aside from if that cruise ends up not being a very full cruise and they put it on a discount list. That day is going to be your cheapest day. And it ends up being cheaper by a substantial amount.
You ended up the first day before we could book. So I am a gold Castaway Club because after you've cruised 5 times, you go to gold. And so you're silver and I'm gold. I could have booked it the day before, but I had a lot going on this week. I didn't do it. So when I priced it the day before and then the day that I actually called to book it, it went up. It was not a significant amount, but even just in one day, I want to say it was like $150 that it went up, which again, like in the grand scheme of things, when you're spending that much money for a Disney cruise, that's really not a big deal. But I
No.
do regret not calling the second that Gold could book it. But it wasn't the week. And of course it always happens that way. That's why you have
Yeah.
a travel agent to do that for you though. I needed a travel agent.
Yeah. Her travel agent was busy that day.
Yeah, she was.
So it ended up being, I think, about $250 when I checked it from the time that I think Pearl, is that the highest?
Yes.
Pearl, to me booking it, it was about $250 that I would have saved if I was a Pearl member. Now, like I said, it's not just a ton, but I'm one of those, like every penny counts.
Yeah.
You know, it all adds up if you just try. So that is why that it's important if you know for sure exactly what you're wanting to do. Now, some people don't, and they just plan their vacation around what's the cheapest right now. I'm booking it last minute. And I get that. But if you absolutely know, let's say Alaska is another one, people have to plan that out. You can't just usually go to Alaska on the fly.
Want to bet?
I would, yeah, even though we say all the time we're going to do that. But for most people,
Right.
you would have to plan that a year at least in advance. So that's what I would say is if you know for sure, get with your travel agent, book it on the day it comes out.
And don't freak out if you don't, because like she said,
Oh.
if it's not going to be a full sold out cruise, they do like discounts for Disney Plus subscribers. They do buy 2 adults, 1 kid sells for free, or however, I mean, they do promos. Now, I have a lot of people come to me that are used to going to either Disneyland or Walt Disney World, and they're expecting those promos like Disney World does. There's always going to be some kind of promo. It doesn't really matter when you travel. You're going to get a discount off your dining or your tickets and Disney Cruise Line is not necessarily like that. So like she said, the day that it opens, that's going to be your cheapest unless they do a promo later. And if they do, you're probably going to pay then what you would have paid on day one. So
Yes.
I just wanted to throw that out there because if you don't and you miss it, don't not book it because you think it's ridiculously priced or whatever. I mean, don't let that scare you.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really just more about convenience. There was even a specific room. That sounds silly to people, but if you've cruised multiple times, if you like a room and you like a specific deck, place on the ship, it's just what you want. So I just want to throw that out there because I know that, and that it's not normal. Normally it's about 2 hours that you have to wait on hold. It was just because their website kept going down. So it was pushing everybody to the phones. So that was just a freak
Yeah.
thing. But do you want to start off with talking about passport versus birth certificate? Because this is also probably my second asked question.
Yes.
Do I
So
need a passport?
if you begin and end your cruise in the United States, it's a closed loop cruise that begins and ends, whether it be Florida, Texas, Seattle, California, wherever, as long as it begins and ends in the United States, you can cruise with a birth certificate. It has to be a original birth certificate. It can't be a copy. You do not have to have a passport. However, let's say you board in Port Canaveral and you're going to the Bahamas and you get there and something happens and you want to fly home, or I don't know. I just always use
medical
that.
emergency is really what we always say.
I always use that as an example. Chances of that happening are slim, but I mean, hey, crazy things happen. So you would not be able to fly home from another country without a passport. So we always do passports. I've never cruised with just a birth certificate, but my mom did. Mom went with, we did a girls' cruise one year. she and I and Taylor went, and she did cruise with a passport, not a passport, birth certificate. So, I mean, you can, and I have clients all the time that do. It just, I have horrible luck. And the first time I did that, something bad would happen, or I would miss the ship or whatever and not be able to fly home. And I would just be stuck sitting there in Jamaica or Mexico or wherever. So for me, it's worth the peace of mind to have a passport, but you don't have to.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say is my mom, the last time that we cruised, they cruised, some of the kids just used birth certificates. And it's fine. It's really no significant difference. I would just say if you're on the more anxious side and it's going to be weighing on you, then I would just get the passport.
Yes. And adult passports, is it over 16 or 18 that they last for 10 years? When does it go?
It's 16.
Okay. So you have that passport for 10 years. Now, it is annoying, especially in our case. My mom bought Taylor her passport for her first birthday because we knew we would be cruising. But then a year later, here comes the pandemic. So a child passport is only good for 5 years. And 2.5 of the 5 years that Taylor had this passport went to waste because of COVID. So a child one does only last 5 years, but I love knowing that mine, I'm good for 10 years. I don't have to worry about it.
Yeah. I think the next thing that we should talk about, because it's one of the top questions, when is the best time to take a cruise? People ask that. If you're a first-time cruiser, that's probably the first thing out of their mouths is, when do you think that I should take a cruise?
What month do you recommend to people? Because I know what I say, what my favorite month to cruise is, and I just want to see if ours is the same.
So I always tell people that if it was me, I would pick somewhere the last of April to the very beginning of June, with May, like any time in May, being the very best time to cruise.
That's exactly what I say, because we've cruised many times in May. Our anniversary is May 17th, so we usually are doing something in the month of May. May has the perfect cruise weather because the ocean is warming up. It's not hot, it's not cold. The weather is warm enough where you can go to the ocean, you can swim in the pools, whatever, without scorching your feet off on the hot sand and without having to bring a sweatshirt because it's chilly. May is just,
Yes.
that's the bread and butter month for cruising, in my opinion. I love May.
It really is.
I love May cruises.
It really is.
That's the one I recommend when anybody asks me. And price-wise, it's not the most expensive. It's not the cheapest either, but it's not bad. I mean, it's just like middle of the road price-wise.
Now, I will add in, people will say, okay, well, what about July? Technically, hurricane season starts in June. Now, it doesn't really ramp up until August, but here's really what it is. I was kind of thinking that this happened, whenever we went to Florida, weren't they having like some kind of tropical depression when we went in June?
They did, and it rained
like
every single day, like at 4 p.m.
Yes.
Every day, like clockwork.
Okay. Yes. So it's not going to be like probably a hurricane, but like a tropical depression. And then think going to Florida in the summertime and those summer storms. They're severe.
Yes.
So that's what you're running into going into the later June. Because when we went to Florida that last June, it was in like later June.
So,
Like she said, rained every day.
I have cruised several months of the year, but my favorite, aside from May, the best cruise we ever took was in September. And that's crazy because September is in the heart of hurricane season. And this specific cruise, we booked the week that we left. I knew that I was going to book it. I had it like in my cart and I knew I was going to, but we were watching the weather because I did not want to go in the middle of a hurricane, which Disney, I think all cruise lines actually, like if they can't do it, they're going to cancel or they're going to go around it. You might have different ports or whatever. They're not going to just go right out into the eye of this storm. And I knew that, but I'm prone to motion sickness, so I didn't want to make it any worse on myself. But September, aside from the stress of hurricane, I loved that month. Like I said, that's next to May for me was September.
Yeah. We went in November on our last cruise, and it was a good cruise. I was very shocked at how rocky it was, but people remember last hurricane season lasted a really long time.
It did.
And a hurricane had just came through, and whew, that it was, we were rocking and rolling that cruise. Nobody got sick, but November is also another time that people love to cruise. That's when the Merry Cruises start.
Yes.
And those are so popular. That's on my bucket list. I want to do a Merry Cruise. Have you done one?
Yes, the one that we went on with Mom, we left the day after Thanksgiving and drove down. We stayed a couple days at Disney. So it was like the Monday after Thanksgiving. We did a 4-night cruise. And it was the Merry Time, and it was awesome. It was so awesome. I loved it.
So the next thing I want to talk about is what makes Disney special. I know we don't have that completely wrote down, but I think this goes into a lot of the things that that we have wrote down to discuss. But, you know, I think Shelby gets this too. You have a lot of people who love Disney World, and they think, what is going to make a cruise feel like Disney? But it feels like Disney.
It does. But it's so much more laid back. That's my favorite.
Yes.
That's why I would choose cruise over Disney World. Even Taylor, I asked her a couple weeks ago, would you rather go into the parks and do like a Disney vacation or a cruise? And she interrupted me. She didn't even let me get it all out. And she was like, cruise.
Yeah. Mateo has been crying ever since we came home, and all of a sudden he'll just think about it and he'll go, I didn't want to come back from the cruise. Like, he'll just start crying. He's still like upset. He cried the entire day that we left. He loved it so much. So let's go into what makes a Disney cruise different, because we have some of these wrote down. So let's talk about one of the biggest things. I don't think anybody else does fireworks, right?
No, Disney is the only cruise line that does fireworks at sea as of right now. Now that may change, but right now that's it.
So they do fireworks on Pirate Night. I don't know of another cruise line that also does Pirate Night. Now, I think Shelby tells people the same thing that I do. Some people really dress up. Some people don't dress up at all. But Pirate Night is going to be your staple on a Disney cruise. And I don't know what makes it so fun, but it's fun.
It is.
It's fun for the kids. It's fun for the adults. One time my grandmother, I think I told this story on the podcast that we recorded that never got released, but she saw Jack Sparrow, got into the elevator with her, just her and Jack Sparrow, and he told her like she was beautiful. She still talks about that. She was talking about it on the last cruise that we had. So it's a very, very fun night.
It is. Another thing that I like about Disney Cruise Line. Now, I want to throw this out there. I have never been on another cruise that's not Disney. I don't know why I just said it like that. I haven't done Royal, I haven't done Carnival, Princess, Celebrity. There's lots and lots of cruise lines out there. I've only ever done Disney. And Jordan has done, I don't remember what brand they did, but so he has something to compare it to, and he says Disney all the way. But one of my favorite things that Disney does that I don't think any other cruise line does is the rotational dining. So
Yes.
they have like the quick service type pizza, burgers, all that by the pool. They have the buffet that you can do for breakfast and lunch. And then they have 3 restaurants on like for dinner, which you can do certain days. You can do breakfast and lunch at those too. But as for dinner, like where you're going to sit down to eat, they have 3 restaurants, and each night of your cruise, you rotate between them, but your wait staff goes with you. So your waiter, they have a separate waiter for drinks. I don't know what you would call them, but you have like a food waiter and a drink waiter. They remember if you have allergies, they remember what you order to drink. After the first night, when you go back the next day, it's sitting there waiting on you at your table.
Yes.
And I love that Disney does that because I just feel like that's special and it's more personal. I love that.
Yes.
So I love the rotational dining. You don't have to worry about making reservations. It's already done. There's not a lot of planning that goes into a Disney cruise other than like excursions and stuff. But as for dinner, I mean, you're gonna get to experience all the restaurants. And if you do a longer cruise, you get to go back a second time, but the menu's different. So that's one of my favorite things on a Disney cruise. Yeah. Imagine that. The food.
Now let's go back to that. The waiters. You get attached to those people. It's very weird. But I've even went on cruises, like another cruise, and you'll find yourself requesting those people. You can do that because they're just so much fun.
They are.
It's really that's really, like she said, what makes a Disney cruise special. Now, let me say, I should have added this at the beginning. This cruise that we just booked, I don't know if I told Shelby this, but there was somebody in my cruise group who said that they priced the same cruise on Royal and it was $1,000 more. And they also brought up how that Royal Caribbean nickel and dimes you anytime you want to eat in a restaurant that they consider, quote, fancy, which is really on par with the rotational dining that Disney does.
Yes. And you don't pay extra. Now, Disney they have, what would you call those, like high-end restaurants for?
Yeah, fine dining is what they call it.
I mean, and you do have to pay extra for those, but you don't have to. I mean, you have other dining options. And I've heard that too, where you feel like you have to do that on Royal. If you want food that's not a buffet or, if you want the good stuff.
So let's also go into the next topic that we had is that room service is free and it's 24/7.
Yes. We love room service on Disney cruises. You can get an Uncrustable peanut butter and jelly sandwich. They have a whole menu of things. Jordan loves the buffalo wings that you can get. You can get grilled cheese and fries, burgers, even just like a cheese and cracker, like charcuterie type thing. You can do that.
Yes.
You can order the frozen Mickey bars. And keep in mind, all this is included in your cruise fare. I mean, it's up to you for gratuity, but the food itself, you're not paying for. You've already done that. But my favorite thing, and I do it almost every night of all of our cruises, I order warm chocolate chip cookies with a glass of milk. And I love it. I love it. I put that specifically on the list to talk about because the Disney Cruise Line cookies are great, but order them warmed up. Oh, so good.
They are. There's just something about eating a Mickey bar and sitting on your veranda.
I know.
I don't know. That hits different than there is something about eating a Mickey bar in front of the castle, or for Shelby, it's a sandwich.
Yeah.
But there's something about standing on Main Street and eating a Mickey bar. Well, there's something to be said about standing on your veranda and eating a Mickey bar. Those are two top tier moments, Disney moments, I'll say.
Another thing that I just thought of, like since we're on the food topic, the sodas, teas, coffees are all included in what you pay. I know many cruise lines you have to pay extra for like a drink package. Even if it's just sodas. Now, on Disney, you do have to pay, like, if you're wanting alcoholic packages, you can do that. But as far as, like, if you want Coke or tea, coffee, it's there. It's free for all. And I feel like that's rare, too, for cruises.
Yes. Yeah, you will not go hungry on a Disney cruise. They even have restaurants that are near the pool. I think those are open, lunch until dinner, right?
Yeah, it's like 6. I think they close at 6. Or they did on the last one we just did. They were open until 6 p.m.
Yeah. You will never go hungry on a Disney cruise. It is amazing.
You don't even think about, like, my stomach will not growl one time from the time I step foot on that cruise until the time I leave.
Yeah. So let's talk about the characters because that's what also makes a Disney cruise fun is the characters. And I feel like that they're different there because they're dressed up like Captain Mickey, Captain Minnie. And we also had a moment where Harper, when she was, how old do you think she was? 3? I have a video of her and she's crying and she's saying, it was not the real Disney. Like we had went to Disney World and we're like, well, she says it wasn't the real Mickey. And we're like, what was the real Mickey? She's like, he wears a captain's hat and he has a captain's uniform. We realized, she thinks that was the real Mickey that was, driving the ship.
Well, they don't only have those outfits on formal night on a longer cruise. They're wearing, we have pictures with Mickey and Minnie where she's like wearing her feather boa and he's wearing a tuxedo. So they go with the theme. And even like if you stop at one of Disney's private islands, we saw Mickey on the cruise we did last month. He was out wearing his swim trunks and flippers and he had goggles up on his head. It's really cute. I mean, It's really, really cute. Disney goes above and beyond with everything, but
They do.
the attention to detail like that. I mean, who would think to put Mickey in a tuxedo on formal night? It was so cute. Like, we love that.
Yeah, Pirate Night, he's Pirate Mickey.
Yes.
That's a good one too. But the best, in my opinion, Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique is the one that's on the cruise line.
is.
I don't know what makes it so awesome, but that one is awesome. If you have a little boy, they can do the pirate thing, which I think they can do that in Magic Kingdom too, right?
They used
I
to.
think
I
boys-
think they closed that down during the pandemic, and
Okay.
I don't think it's back. I could totally be wrong, but I don't think it is.
Okay. Well, on the cruise line, you get a pirate name. They do this little, I don't know, whatever it is, pirate ceremony. It's awesome. It's awesome, especially if you have a little girl. I always recommend people do the Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique. If you're only going to do that one time,
Do it on the cruise.
do it on a Disney. Yes, do it on a Disney cruise. It's amazing. That's also one of the things that gets sold out first.
Yes.
So make sure you put that on the high priority list. We probably should have started with the online check-in and port arrival time,
Yeah.
because that's one of the first things you got to do, but better late than never. Do you want to explain how that the check-in and you know how you get the best port arrival time?
Yes. So it depends on how many times you've cruised and what your castaway status is to what day you would do the online check-in. It opens up at midnight, and you upload pictures of passports. You're putting in the information. This is also when you do the kids club, right? The pre-registration for kids club.
Yes.
Is that-
yes?
okay.
And and I think the Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique would be
Yes.
during that time.
Yes. So after you put all of your information in, you go through and you will select a port arrival time. So now the more you cruise, the sooner you get to do that, which means the earlier time slot you can choose to get on the ship. We usually are around between 11 and 11:30, and I don't think they even start boarding the ship until 10:30, 10:45. I think that's the earliest you can get. So that at that point is when you would do your port arrival time. Don't get discouraged if you get like a 2:00 port arrival time, because usually around noon-ish is when they just open it up and you come, you go. They're not as picky. But now those early port arrival times, they will make you stand there until the clock says 11:15. Like there's no, don't even waste your time getting there early, because you're going to have to wait.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind. But now I think all aboard time is usually around 4. So if you have a later port arrival time, like I said, after maybe noon or 1, they start letting everybody on whenever. So don't let that
Yes.
discourage you if you get a late time, because you're not going to have to wait that long.
Yeah. You did a better job at just discussing that than I did, because it's hard for me to explain that to people. Like you just said, that even if you get like the, 10:30 time, you're still just going to be sitting there to wait.
Yes.
So don't freak out. 11 is fine.
Yeah. So this is going back to like what sets Disney Cruise Line apart. I think every cruise line has some kind of show at the end of the day, an after or pre-dinner show, after dinner show, whatever. Now Disney does it like Disney does, and they have their Disney Broadway style shows every night. And that is one of the highlights. And we'll go into that more on a later episode. But the shows are amazing. I mean, you think the shows
Yes.
in the parks are great. Wait till you see the cruise line shows. The cruise we just did, they did Aladdin. And that one that's one of my favorite Broadway shows. And I think it's because on our honeymoon, we went to Disneyland in California, and they had an Aladdin show then. I don't think they have it anymore. But I think it's just like a nostalgia thing for me, because I always think of that. But Disney just does it. They do it right. And on the longer cruises, they'll do like 3 or 4 Broadway style shows. And then they might have like a magician one night, or ventriloquist, or, you know, they do mix stuff like that into. But
Yeah.
the shows are amazing.
They are.
That's always one of the highlights of my day, is going to the show after dinner.
Yeah. I always recommend to people that if you're going to, some people don't like prioritize the shows, but if you're going to do a show, do, like she said, Aladdin. It kind of seems like maybe they're going to have Moana. They have Tangled. They have Beauty and the Beast. Yes, do one of those. Those are usually the best ones, but you don't think of it being like a Broadway style show like on a cruise ship, but they really are to that level. They are amazing.
They are.
We should also say that they do have a movie theater there, and they play movies that are in the theater, but they play them on the ship. It's included.
One of our cruises that we did, a movie was being released the week that we were on there, and they do like a whole premiere night. It was like really cool. They made it a whole party, and that was really neat. So, I mean, you don't have to wait on it to come out, or you don't have to go to the movies. It's on the ship. And again, like she said, it's included.
Yes. I feel like that we're saving the best for last. Oh, I did, when we were talking, I forgot to mention that during your cruise activities, one of the other things that I tell people, if you have girls, they have tea time.
Yes.
We totally missed talking about that, but that's really, really cute. We could really go into that, but you can look it up. They have tea time. But anyways, we are saving the best for last, because what makes Disney so great to me is the islands.
Yes. And they have two. So they only had one until last year. Is that when Lighthouse opened? So now they have two options, and we could talk hours and hours and hours about Disney's private islands, but we're not going to get into all that. They are amazing. I mean, that'll have to be another episode just specifically talking about those islands. But all the food on those islands, it's included in your cruise fare. I'm not super crazy about the food on Castaway. It's okay to me, but it's not up to par with what you get on the ship, in my opinion. And that's probably an unpopular opinion. I mean, we eat it and it's fine. It's just nothing to brag about, in my opinion.
I love the ice cream flavors that they have there. Look at the lactose intolerant girls talking about the ice cream.
Ice cream is a totally different story. I'm talking like the burgers and ribs and chicken. I mean, it's good. It's just not.
Yeah, it is.
It's not
as good as what's on the ship,
Yeah.
but it is still good.
Yeah.
But that's where they have like the banana, the strawberry.
I think they have a mango too.
Good. Yes, it's so good.
So on a Disney cruise, and I meant to mention this when we were talking about things that you do on the ship, they have kids clubs, which I think most cruise lines do. They have one from 3 to 12, and then like 11 to, 15? Because they kind of overlap. So the 11-year-olds can choose if they want to go to the Oceaneers Club, which is like the little kid club, or they can go, what's the next one, Vibe or Edge? I get those mixed up because I don't have a kid that old now. But the kids clubs are awesome, and you can also check them into kids clubs on the island, and they do activities, they play games, they go on scavenger hunts, and
Yes.
that's really fun too. And all that is
Yes.
included. You don't pay extra for kids clubs.
Yes, that was one of the things that I noticed on Royal Caribbean. You have to pay to go to their little water park. And this is another thing that I told somebody that I was booking a cruise for them just a couple days ago. You could go on a Disney cruise that goes to their island, and you could buy no excursions. You could buy nothing extra. You could go to the rotational dining and not buy any of the fine dining, and you would have an awesome cruise. We've done it. I'm sure
Yes.
Shelby has.
Yes, absolutely.
That's what I love about Disney is you don't feel, once you've paid, you feel like pretty much you're done paying.
Yeah. Aside from the gratuities, and you can even prepay your gratuities when you book your cruise, you can add that on and pay for it in advance. And we've done that several times, because then you truly do feel like it's a free I mean,
Yes.
it feels more all inclusive, I guess.
Yes.
So they have on the Disney islands, as well as the cruise ships, they have an adult only side that you 18 and above. So there's no screaming kids. They don't even play Disney music on that side of the ship. They have like normal music playing. And so they have that on the ship. They have pools, bars, all the things, a coffee shop. But on the island, they also have adult only where kids are not allowed. They have hammocks. it's a whole different atmosphere because there's no kids. You don't have to ride the tram thing over to the family side of the island for lunch. They have their own little lunch buffet there too, with the ice cream. So there's that. Especially if you check your kids into the kids club thing, then you can go over to the adult, or you take grandparents with you, whatever, or leave your kids at home if you choose. I mean, you have options, and it's not, Disney cruises are definitely geared more towards families and kids, but you can absolutely do it. If you have no kids or your kids are older, you leave your kids, you can absolutely do a Disney cruise without kids and not feel like kiddie. I don't know how to say that, but
Yeah.
I mean, we did Disney cruises before we ever had Taylor, which we're Disney dorks anyway, so we would have enjoyed it. But even if you're not, I feel like you could enjoy a Disney cruise.
Oh, yeah. That was you and Jordan's bread and butter.
Yeah.
That was one of the things. It used to make me laugh because Jordan, do you remember that Jordan was like, I don't know if we should have kids. Like, he couldn't imagine, like, not going to the adult only places. Do you remember him saying stuff like that?
Taylor, in the future, if you're ever listening to this, we love you. He doesn't regret you.
Yeah. It was just so funny because he got so used to being on the adult only
Yes,
side.
yes.
Then after he had Taylor, it was like, come over to the people
Yeah.
that are losing their minds with the children.
I know. But now Taylor,
It's so serene over there.
She loves the kids clubs, and it's very safe too. I want to throw that out there because a lot of people are like, "Oh, I don't know about leaving my kid," especially on a cruise ship with other people. But you have a password. They have your picture saved on there. They scan your room key. She has like a band thing to go in and out. So nobody's getting your kid, and you're not getting somebody else's kid. And she loves the kids clubs. I mean, she would spend her entire vacation there if we would let her. So we do still get to go to the adult only side for him. But yeah, he was like, I don't know if I want to give this up.
It was so funny. But I don't know. Are we wrapping it up now?
Well, we need to talk about the placeholder, the
Oh, you're right,
discount
you're right,
with
you're
that, and I'll let you talk that because I feel like I just took over on the island.
Oh, no, it's fine. So once you are, I think it's really like once you set sail that very first night, you will see it in your Disney Cruise Line app. You do have to download the app before your cruise. You will see it'll say, I think it says something like purchase placeholder discount now. And basically that is a 10% discount for a future cruise. So you pay $250, but that $250 comes back to you by going towards your deposit that you make on your future cruise. So, Disney makes you pay a percentage of the deposit. So like I just booked this cruise that I booked, I was supposed to pay $800 and something. I only had to pay $650 because $250 that I had already paid went towards that deposit. If you even think that you might take another cruise, book it because you can always cancel and get that $250 back.
Yes.
So
and
I tell everybody to just book it.
we actually did that. We went on a cruise one year, and the day after we flew, or actually the day we flew home, I found out I was pregnant with Taylor. And we had done the placeholder, but then I was like, you have 2 years to use it. So I just couldn't imagine, a year, not really a year, but 9 months of pregnancy and then newborn. So I called and I got it refunded. So we didn't end up using it. But you can get it refunded. Or if you don't use it and it just sits there, it'll come back to you automatically if you don't book it within the certain time frame.
Yes. I'm glad you added that because I forgot about that. You have 24 months, I think, from that time of.
It is from that day, the day that you do it.
I've been sitting here thinking about because Shelby, before we started, it's like, we're going to talk about our favorite moment and our least favorite moment. And I was not prepared for that. How many times have we done this?
A lot.
And I still already forgot.
Yeah. So we both posted on our Instagrams too. We were asking for questions before we recorded this today. And we ended up recording like 30 minutes after we posted it. So I did have one question, and I'm going to look on there before we end to see if anybody else added anything. But somebody asked, would you do Disney Cruise Line or Walt Disney World for toddlers like around 2 to 3 years old? And I love this question because it can go both ways, and you can go
Yes.
either way, and I'll tell you why I would choose each one. So the cruise line, your kid, you're paying regardless. They have to be at least 6 months before you can book a cruise, or before they can go on a cruise. For the pools, they have to be potty trained. They don't allow swim diapers. Now they do have like a little splash pad area for toddlers, babies and toddlers, that they do allow swim diapers, but they don't allow swim diapers in the pool. If they see it, lifeguards blowing their little whistle, yanking you out. Not really yanking you out, but they'll tell you. I mean, they're watching.
Yes.
Now, the food side of it, like the waiter cutting up your kid's steak so you can eat your dinner while it's hot, and the waiter, which that's not just toddlers, they do it all the way up. Even your
Even for
grandmother.
grandmas.
Yeah. So, I mean, that, and they have the characters. Like I said, Kids Club, the Oceaneers Club doesn't start until age 3, but they do have It's a Small World nursery. And so you can check them. Now, you have to pay for that. That's not included. If you wanted to do anything without kids, kid-free, that's what you'd have to do. Now, Disney World, if you go before they're 3, they're free. So you're not paying for tickets. You're not paying for their food. It's free. So I can see going either way on that. But now it just depends what you're wanting more of. If you want rides or you want characters, that it's kind of a loaded question. But I feel like you could go either way. You're going to have a good time no matter what. But
You are. I would agree with that. Now, I will say that if your baby is still taking baby food, they do bring you like pureed, like
yes.
green beans, whatever. So the main thing to me that I tell people about that is if your baby hates being in a stroller and you're going to have to carry them everywhere, then go on a cruise.
That's a good point.
Because boy, does it get tiring
Yes.
carrying them through that park.
Yeah.
But a cruise is much more relaxing, like she said. And you're still going to get the interaction with the characters. You're still going to have a great time. But that's what I would say. If you want a more laid back vacation, take a cruise.
And there are a lot of rides that small kids and even infants can ride, especially Magic Kingdom. There's no height requirements for a lot of rides. So that would be another thing to consider for that age. But I mean, I just feel like the cruises, like you said, are so much more laid back, and it's just overall a better vacation, I think.
It is. My favorite Disney moment is when we took a Disney cruise, and it was with my parents, and this waiter, that was the best waiter we've ever had. He loved to play tricks, magic tricks. Like, he was just playing pranks on us the entire time. And he had this little, I don't even know if I want to give it away in case you ever went on Disney cruise, because I heard that there's other waiters that do this. But anyways, he had this little hand that he was like hiding, and he was saying that like he had like a friend in his hand. But when you would look, he wanted us each to look separately too. But when you would look, that hand would come out and get a quarter.
Yeah.
I can't even explain it.
Yeah.
It was just, but it startled all of us because we were not expecting that. And we had no idea what he was talking about. Well, we all were screaming, each individually screaming before we'd see it. And my dad thought it was ridiculous. But then my grandmother was not there. So then the next time that we sat down, we were like, no, show her that whatever I think he called it chicky chicky. And so he did it to her. And the way that she gasped, my dad said it was like she just like witnessed a murder, the way that he gasped, because it scared her so bad. Anyways, that's my favorite moment on a cruise because it was so funny. And I'm going to be honest, I really can't think of a bad time on a cruise. They're all good.
I had a hard time coming up, and my low is not even really a low, but it's, like you said, it's hard to come up with. So my favorite Disney cruise memory is Taylor's first cruise. She was two and a half probably. It was during the pandemic when they first started cruising again. You had to test like for COVID before you could board the ship. You had to wear a mask if you were inside. But there were only maybe 400, 500 guests on this ship. And those ships are huge. So with that few number of people, you felt like you had that ship to yourself. The pools were empty. The island was empty. It was amazing. And which that's kind of how Disney World was too during the pandemic. Like at the beginning, everything was social distanced and, you know, yes, it was annoying to wear a mask, but it was worth it for that cruise experience. Because it felt like nobody was there. At the shows, you had to social distance, but there might have been 200 people in that whole theater, and it's huge. I mean, it probably holds 2,000 people. I don't know. But that was my favorite because the ports were still iffy, especially like Nassau. They were not letting cruise lines come there because I guess they didn't want those people to bring COVID to them. They didn't want COVID to go with you. So we got to do Disney's Island, Castaway Cay twice on one cruise. And they do have some itineraries where we call it double dipping in the island, like for their private islands. But that was just a regular cruise. We were supposed to go to Nassau, but instead we did 2 days at Castaway. And that was, I'm telling you, top tier moment for me, Disney cruise. I mean, yeah, there were some downsides because you had to your pictures with the characters, you couldn't give them hugs. You had to stand over to the side wearing a mask, but it was still so much fun.
Yeah. I would really say my only like down moment I can really think of is the last cruise that we took. It was very rocky, like I said. So that first night there was a lot of swaying at dinner, and Harper kind of felt nauseous. That was really the only thing. But I've never had a bad Disney cruise.
I haven't either. And my low moment was, so the cruise that we went on a month ago was for Taylor's birthday. We were on the Disney Wish, which is their second newest ship. And that was the first time we had been on the Wish. And that was our first 3-night cruise. So the 3-night cruises are over the weekends usually. And it was a holiday weekend. It was Martin Luther King Day was on Monday. So that cruise was sold out. It was packed. So that's my low moment, is just how crowded it was. Now, would I cruise the Wish again? Absolutely. I don't know that I would do a 3-night again because it's over the weekend. I felt like it was more crowded because people are taking less time off work. It is very rushed and it's cheaper. So that also draws more people in too. So that was my low. I mean, we still had an amazing time. It was a wonderful cruise. It was way more crowded than what I was used to. Now, granted, I've been in my house for the last 18 months. So, I mean, I haven't really been around large crowds in a long time. So that also played a part in how I felt too. But the Wish, compared to the other ships I had been on, that first night, I was telling Jordan, like, we've made a mistake. We should not have booked this. Now, I did end up changing my mind by the end. It did end up being better, but it is way more crowded than what I was used to. So, I mean, like I said, that's my low point, but it's not really even a low because I would go on another one right now.
Yeah. I think that's going to wrap it up, though. And if we haven't convinced you to book a Disney cruise, I don't know what's going to convince you. Maybe our next episode, like she said about the islands, we are going to do a specific episode about that.
Yeah.
And then if you have any questions, you can always reach out to us.
Yes.
We can book your cruise, but we're not telling you that you have to book with us because we don't ever want this to be like a pushy
No
sales pitch.
I mean,
because we don't really care if you go on it or not. We're still going.
Oh, yeah. That's what I tell people all the time. Like, whatever you want to do, it's up to you, but I'm still going with or without you. I don't care.
Yeah, there's something to be said about, I think that you just get tired of giving free advice. That's really what it is. So you're like, I need to get paid to give this advice.
Yes, absolutely.
And not help people for free.
Yeah. But here we are with the podcast. It's free for you, and we're giving you all the advice. But no. So our next episode is going to be a Q&A, right? Is that the next one we're going to do? So we've had people message us on Instagram with questions and maybe even Facebook. We have a post up on Instagram where you could go leave a comment with a question, or you can message us. You can leave it on here. I think Spotify allows comments on the podcast. So we want your questions. It doesn't necessarily have to be travel related. It can be anything. We're open books and we
Yeah.
don't hold back. So
No,
we'll take it.
I'll say anything except for Sophia's love life. She specifically is like, do not talk about my love life on the podcast. So just don't ask me about Sophia's love life, and that's it.
She's sworn to secrecy. That's funny.
Besides that, ask away.
Yes. So we leave less than 3 weeks. We're going on our big trip to California. So we're going to have lots of California episodes coming. But we're trying to get them recorded up to leading up to that point. I don't think, are we going to take that week off with no podcast, or are we going to just have it ready to go?
I think we're going to have it ready to go. We have endless things to talk about.
I've had people asking me if we can do multiple podcasts in a week because they're running out of things to listen to, which is hilarious to me because, like, I mean, but we have a mile-long list of ideas. So, I mean,
We do.
Maybe after summer.
At this point, we should just record a phone call episode, but you guys might be traumatized, so we'll refrain from that.
We would lose our subscribers.
We'd be like, they're mentally ill and we didn't know it.
We can hide it better because if we say things that I regret us saying, I just cut it out when I'm editing the podcast. May your flights be on time and your luggage never lost. But if it's not, that's where the fun begins. Bye.
Bye.
Pack your dreams, grab your bag. Adventures call, let's zig and zag. From castles tall to ocean waves, magic made for wanderers brave. Theme parks light up the night, starry-eyed in sheer delight. Board the ships, set sail and see endless tales and fantasy. Chaos and carry-ons, let's go. Disney dreams in tow, you know. Every flight and every ride, join the journey, come inside. From Mickey ears to Dole Whip tree, pixie dust beneath our feet. Through the lands and sea we roam, feel the wonder, feel at home. From rope drop to the fireworks show, lose yourself in the joyful glow. Cruising waters, feeling free, every twist's a memory. Chaos and carry-ons, let's go. Disney dreams in tow, you know. Every flight and every ride, join the journey, come inside.